Before we dive into this incredible true story that will leave you speechless, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what you're about to hear will completely change how you think about family, success, and revenge. And trust me, you won't want to miss the shocking twist at the end. My name is Marcus Thompson, and I'm standing here today in the boardroom of what was once my father's empire, except now it's mine. The mahogany table where he used to humiliate me, the leather chair where he declared I was no son of his, and the family portrait that once hung behind his desk. It's all different now. But let me take you back to where this story really begins, because what happened next will blow your mind. It was a cold December morning in Chicago 2018. The snow was falling heavy outside the windows of Thompson Industries headquarters, and I was 28 years old, sitting across from my father, Richard Thompson, in his corner office on the 42nd floor. The city sprawled below us like a chessboard, and I thought I was just another piece he could move around at will. "Marcus," he said, not even looking up from his paperwork, "I've made my decision about the succession plan." I leaned forward, my heart racing. This was it, the moment I'd been working toward my entire life. 3 degrees from prestigious universities, 10 years climbing the corporate ladder within his company, sacrificing relationships, sleep, and my own dreams to prove I was worthy of carrying on the Thompson legacy. "I'm giving the company to your brother," he said flatly. The words hit me like a physical blow. "Dad, what?" "James has been working here for only 2 years. He doesn't even understand half our operations." "James understands what matters," he interrupted, finally looking up with those cold grey eyes that had intimidated board members for decades. "He understands family loyalty. He understands tradition." I felt my hands trembling. "What are you talking about? I've given everything to this company. I've never taken a vacation longer than 3 days. I've brought in more revenue than anyone in our division. And you've also been questioning my methods," he snapped, "challenging my decisions in meetings, suggesting we modernize processes that have worked for 50 years. That's not loyalty, Marcus. That's rebellion." The room felt like it was spinning. "Those suggestions increased our efficiency by 30%. Our client satisfaction went up." "I don't care about your statistics," he said, standing up and walking to the window. "This company was built on certain principles, respect for authority, following established systems. Your generation thinks you can just come in and change everything because you have some fancy ideas." I stood up too, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "My generation, Dad, I'm trying to save this company. Half our competitors are leaving us behind because we refuse to adapt. The shipping industry is evolving, and we're still operating like it's 1975. He turned around and I saw something in his face I'd never seen before. Not just anger, but disgust. "You sound just like your mother." The mention of my mother, who had died when I was 15, sent a surge of rage through me. "Don't you dare bring her into this. She was always filling your head with ideas about being different, being special. She convinced you that you were smarter than everyone else in this family." His voice was getting louder now. "Well, let me tell you something, Marcus. Being smart doesn't make you worthy. Being loyal does. Being respectful does. Following the path that's been laid out for you does." "The path you laid out," I said. "Not the path that makes sense. Not the path that ensures this company survives another generation." "That's enough!" He slammed his hand on the desk. "You want to know the truth? You're not Thompson material. You never have been. You're too soft, too questioning, too willing to cave to modern nonsense. James understands what it means to be a Thompson. You," he looked me up and down with contempt. "You're not my son anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the ventilation system humming, the distant sound of traffic 42 floors below, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. "What did you just say?" I whispered. "You heard me," he said, sitting back down and picking up his pen, as if nothing had happened. "Clean out your office. Your employment here is terminated effective immediately, and don't expect any family money or support. If you're so smart, prove it on your own." I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. This man who had taught me to ride a bike, who had come to my high school graduation, who had once told me he was proud when I got my MBA, this man was disowning me because I dared to suggest improvements to his business. "Fine," I said quietly. Then louder, "Fine, but you're making the biggest mistake of your life." He didn't even look up. "Security will escort you out." Walking through those hallways for the last time, with 2 security guards flanking me like I was some kind of criminal, I felt the eyes of every employee I'd worked with for years. Some looked sympathetic, others confused. A few seemed almost satisfied. Office politics had never been my strong suit, and I knew some people resented my rapid advancement. But as I packed my personal items into a cardboard box, one thing became crystal clear in my mind. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I was going to prove him wrong in the most spectacular way possible. 6 months later, I was living in a cramped studio apartment in Brooklyn, New York. The transition from a corner office in Chicago to a 400-square-foot space with thin walls and a radiator that sounded like a dying animal was jarring, to put it mildly. But I had a plan. I'd been reaching out to former colleagues, industry contacts, and potential investors with an idea that had been brewing in my mind for years. While my father's company focused on traditional freight shipping between major ports, I saw an opportunity in last-mile delivery solutions for e-commerce companies. The online shopping boom was creating demands that traditional shipping companies weren't equipped to handle. My first break came from an unexpected source. Sarah Chen, a former Thompson Industries client who had always been frustrated with our inflexibility, agreed to meet me for coffee in Manhattan. "Marcus," she said, stirring her latte in the busy cafe near her office, "I heard what happened. I'm sorry, but honestly, I'm not surprised." Sarah ran logistics for a mid-sized fashion retailer that had been trying to expand their online presence. "Your father's company treated us like we should be grateful for their outdated services. When we asked about faster delivery options or real-time tracking, we were told, 'That's not how things are done.' What if I told you I could give you same-day delivery in 5 major cities with full transparency and tracking at competitive rates?" I asked. Her eyes lit up. "I'd say you have my attention." That conversation led to my first contract. It wasn't huge, $50,000 over 6 months, but it was a start. Sarah also introduced me to 3 other companies facing similar challenges. The next year was brutal. I was working 18-hour days, sleeping on the couch in a co-working space more often than in my own bed. I learned how to code basic tracking systems, negotiated with freelance drivers, and handled customer service calls at 2 a.m. Every dollar mattered. Every client relationship was crucial, but something amazing was happening. The companies I worked with weren't just satisfied, they were thrilled. We were solving problems that big shipping companies ignored. When a small business needed emergency delivery of samples for a crucial presentation, we made it happen. When a boutique wanted to offer same-day delivery to compete with Amazon, we figured out how to do it profitably. My father had always said that business was about maintaining control and following established procedures. I was learning that real business was about solving problems and adapting quickly. 2 years after he kicked me out, I had 12 employees and contracts with over 40 companies. We'd expanded from New York to Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. I named the company Velocity Solutions, a not-so-subtle dig at my father's slow-moving empire. But the real validation came when I started getting calls from logistics managers at major corporations. Word was spreading in the industry about this new player that was disrupting traditional shipping models. One call in particular stands out. It was from Jennifer Walsh, VP of Operations at Megamart, one of the largest retail chains in the country. "Mr. Thompson," she said, "we've been hearing interesting things about your company. We're looking for a partner to handle our expedited delivery needs in the Northeast Corridor." The contract she was describing would be worth $2.3 million annually. It was more money than I'd ever imagined having access to. I'd love to discuss this further, I told her, trying to keep my voice steady. Great. I should mention, we've also been in talks with Thompson Industries about this same contract. Your father's company has been our primary freight partner for years. But frankly, their proposal was underwhelming. I almost laughed. Of course they were. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Megamart's corporate headquarters in Cleveland, presenting our proposal to a room full of executives. The presentation went flawlessly. We'd anticipated every question, prepared contingency plans for every scenario they could throw at us. This is impressive, Jennifer said as I wrapped up, but I have to ask, can a company your size really handle the volume we're talking about? It was a fair question. This contract would triple our business overnight. Ms. Walsh, I said, 2 years ago, I was told I wasn't capable of running a company because I thought too small. Today, I'm here proposing a solution that your current provider, a company 50 times our size, couldn't deliver. Sometimes being smaller means being hungrier. It means caring more about each individual client because we can't afford not to. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Jennifer smiled. When can you start? Walking out of that building with a signed contract in my briefcase, I felt something I hadn't experienced since the day my father disowned me. Pure, unadulterated triumph. But the story was just getting started. By year 3, Velocity Solutions had grown to 150 employees across 8 cities. We'd developed proprietary software that optimized delivery routes in real time, reducing costs and delivery times beyond what anyone thought possible. Major tech companies were calling us to handle their most complex logistics challenges. That's when the acquisition offers started coming in. FedEx reached out first, offering $45 million for the company. Then UPS with $52 million. Amazon's logistics division wanted to meet about a potential partnership that could have been worth even more. But the call that stopped me in my tracks came from my brother James. "Marcus," he said, and I could hear the nervousness in his voice. "We need to talk." I hadn't spoken to anyone in my family since the day I was escorted out of the Thompson Industries building. As far as I knew, my father had forbidden anyone from maintaining contact with me. "What do you want, James?" "Dad's in the hospital," he said quietly. "He had a heart attack last week. It's not looking good." Despite everything, I felt a punch of emotion in my chest. "Is he okay?" "He's stable, but the doctors say he needs to reduce stress significantly. He can't run the company anymore, at least not day-to-day operations." There was a long pause. Then James continued, "Marcus, the company is in trouble. We've lost 3 major clients in the past 6 months. The board is talking about selling or merging with a competitor. I'm trying to hold things together, but I'm in over my head." "What does this have to do with me?" "I want you to come back," he said. "As CEO, I'll step aside. We need your expertise, your vision. We need what you've learned building your own company." I almost hung up. The audacity was breathtaking. After years of silence, after being disowned and humiliated, they wanted me to come back and save them. "James," I said slowly, "does Dad know you're calling me?" Another pause. "No. He still won't hear your name mentioned. But Marcus, I've been watching what you've built. Everyone in the industry has. You were right about everything. The modernization, the customer service focus, the technology integration. We should have listened." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the conversation, about my father lying in a hospital bed, about the company that had been in our family for 3 generations, potentially disappearing. But I also thought about something else. I thought about the ultimate revenge. The next morning, I called my lawyer. "I want to make an acquisition offer," I told him. "For which company?" "Thompson Industries." He was quiet for a moment. "Marcus, are you sure about this? I know the history there." "I'm very sure. I want to buy my father's company." It took 6 weeks of negotiations, but the deal came together faster than anyone expected. Thompson Industries was indeed in worse shape than James had let on. They were hemorrhaging money, their client base was shrinking, and the board was desperate for a solution. My offer of $78 million, funded by a combination of Velocity Solutions stock, bank financing, and strategic investors, was accepted unanimously. The day I walked back into that 42nd floor office, everything looked exactly the same. The mahogany table, the leather chairs, even the family portrait was still hanging behind the desk. But everything was different. I was no longer the son begging for approval. I was the owner. My father was released from the hospital 2 days later. James had told him about the sale but hadn't mentioned who the buyer was. He wanted to break the news in person. I was sitting behind his old desk when he walked in. The shock on his face was absolute. He stopped in the doorway, gripping the frame like he needed support. "Hello, Dad," I said calmly. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he looked around the office, his office, as if seeing it for the first time. "This isn't possible," he whispered. "Sit down," I said, gesturing to one of the chairs across from the desk. "We need to talk." He moved slowly, like a man much older than his 68 years. The heart attack had aged him, but I think the realization of what had happened aged him even more. "You bought my company," he said. It wasn't a question. "I bought a failing company that happened to belong to you, yes. Thompson Industries was hemorrhaging money and clients. The board was desperate. My offer saved them from bankruptcy." "With what money?" His voice was hoarse. "With the money I made from the company I built after you threw me out. The company that's now worth more than Thompson Industries ever was." He stared at the desk, his old desk. "I don't understand. You said I wasn't Thompson material. You said I was too soft, too questioning, too willing to embrace modern nonsense. You said I wasn't your son anymore." I leaned forward. "You were right about one thing. I'm not Thompson material, I'm better." "Marcus, no," I interrupted. "It's my turn to talk. For 5 years, I've built something you said was impossible. I've created a company that outperforms your 50-year-old business in every metric that matters. Revenue, growth, client satisfaction, employee retention, everything." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Chicago skyline. "Do you know what your clients said when I called them? They said they'd been waiting for someone to offer them real solutions instead of lectures about tradition. They said they were tired of being treated like they should be grateful for outdated services." "I built this company from nothing," he said quietly. "Yes, you did. And it was impressive, 50 years ago. But you stopped building. You stopped growing. You stopped listening." I turned back to face him. "You chose tradition over innovation, control over collaboration, pride over progress." He looked older than I'd ever seen him. "What happens now?" "Now we rebuild," I said. "Thompson Industries will become a subsidiary of Velocity Solutions. We'll integrate our technologies, modernize your operations, and retain your workforce. Because unlike you, I don't throw away valuable assets just because they challenge me." "And me?" I sat back down. "You can stay on as a consultant if you want. You know this industry, and despite everything, you have valuable relationships. But you'll report to James, who will report to me. You're making your brother my boss?" James has been learning. He's adapted to new methods, embraced change, shown real leadership potential. He's earned his position. I paused. "Something you taught me was important, remember? Earning your place." We sat in silence for several minutes. I could see him processing everything, trying to reconcile the son he'd disowned with the successful businessman sitting across from him. "I was wrong," he said finally. "About what?" "About you. About the business. About a lot of things." He looked up at me. "I let my pride blind me to what was happening in the industry. I let my fear of change drive away the person who could have helped me navigate it." "Yes," I said. "You did. Can you forgive me?" I considered the question. 5 years ago, sitting in this same office, he'd told me I wasn't his son anymore. Today, he was asking for forgiveness. "I can forgive you," I said. But things can't go back to the way they were. Too much has happened. I'm not the same person who left here 5 years ago. I can see that. The question is, are you willing to change? Are you willing to learn from someone you once dismissed? Are you willing to follow instead of lead? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. If you'll have me. 6 months later, the integration was complete. Thompson Industries' revenue had increased by 40% under new management. We'd retained 95% of the workforce while implementing technologies that improved efficiency across all departments. The company my father thought was perfect the way it was became genuinely successful for the first time in years. My father kept his word. He worked as a senior consultant, sharing his industry knowledge while learning new approaches. Our relationship remained formal, professional, but respectful. He never again questioned my methods in front of others, and slowly he began to understand why the changes were necessary. James flourished in his new role. Free from the pressure of living up to impossible expectations, he became an innovative leader in his own right. The brother who had once been handed everything became someone who truly earned his position. As for me, I learned something my father never taught me. That success isn't about proving you're better than everyone else. It's about being better than you were yesterday, solving problems that matter, and building something that lasts. Standing in that boardroom today, 5 years after being told I wasn't Thompson material, I've created a legacy that extends far beyond what my father ever imagined. Velocity Solutions, now including the Thompson Industries subsidiary, operates in 15 cities, employs over 800 people, and generates more than $200 million annually. But the real victory isn't the money or the recognition. It's the letter I received last week from a young employee who said our company's mentorship program helped her develop skills her previous employer never bothered to cultivate. It's the small business owner who told me our services saved his company during the pandemic. It's knowing that the empire I built is based on lifting people up, not cutting them down. My father was right about one thing. I'm not the same Thompson who left his office 5 years ago. I'm better, I'm stronger, I'm more successful than he ever was, but unlike him, I know that success means more than just winning. It means making sure others can win too. The Thompson legacy isn't dead. It's just being written by someone who understands that the best revenge isn't destroying what came before. It's building something so much better that the past becomes irrelevant. And that's how I turned the most devastating moment of my life into the foundation of success beyond my wildest dreams. If this story inspired you to never give up on your dreams, smash that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove anything is possible. What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments below.